Hi, everybody. Welcome to Our Sinclair. I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about ant attack.
You can't mispronounce this one, can you? No matter how hard you try.
No. It's not a tick attack, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
I was thinking about this.
Okay.
I was doing some deep thinking.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah.
And I was thinking about if you were going to be attacked by a group of insects, like a swarm,
Yeah.
would you choose ants?
You gave this deep thought.
I
That's
did.
what you had.
It's deep thoughts.
I would think harder. Oh, that's it. If I was choosing insects to be attacked by, would it be ants? No, not giant ants. Would not be my first choice.
What would you go with?
Probably gnats or something, because they're super tiny. So if you gigantified them, they'd still be super tiny, and they probably couldn't do much to you.
That's true. Like a gigantified gnat might be the size of like a small rat.
Yeah, and you could just smush them. You know, ants. No, think about how strong ants are. They're strong. One small ant can pick up a human man before they're huge.
That's true.
I
read that.
I think I read that.
I read that. Yeah.
No, ants. Giant ants were like the thing. It's funny that we've got several games that have the old giant ants in them.
Yeah.
Came from the Desert has the giant ants.
Tons of 50s movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mantis.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Wasn't that what was them? Was them
was
the
also
giant
ants.
Mantis was about ants. That'd be about a giant praying mantis, wouldn't it?
You might be right about that.
Why would you call it? That's like naming your giant bird movie Giant Dog. See what I'm saying? It seems like a dumb guy move if you did that.
It's true. It's true.
You can see why that movie didn't. I've never heard of it. That explains why.
Do you think that? Why do you think? What is our fascination with like gigantifying insects?
I think the fascination is simply man's trepidation in dealing with atomic energy.
That was where it came
and
from.
Radiation, absolutely, because it all makes sense. If stuff got irradiated, the one thing I never understood is like when ants get irradiated, they become giant, right?
Right.
What is that? Why not humans too? Why not anything?
Yeah, and here's the thing: if everybody gets bigger together,
Yeah.
we're still all right.
Yeah, so that's
the
movie.
Bring on the radiation.
That's right. That's the movie.
what I say.
You get giant, and there is the attack of the 50-foot woman and all that.
Right,
stuff.
but if we just all get irradiated,
Then
we'll all
you
get huge.
Just smash the giant ants with your foot.
Then the ocean becomes like a little wading pool, and it's fun.
Yeah, but what you can do when you need to drink or use the restroom, then you got problems.
Then it's a Superman 4 situation. You just wrap all that up and throw it into the sun.
That's right. So, but literally, the fear of radioactivity, the fear of atomic power, atomic bombs, and whatnot. That's what spurred a lot of this stuff. Now, maybe this was if you think about it, maybe this was just a very idiotic way to push your anti-atomic power and atomic bomb platform. So in some ways, you can look at these old movies and think as political activity.
Yeah, they prevented nuclear annihilation.
You watch all these old movies; this is like the continuing theme, and it is scary. When I was a little kid, we used to think about that all the time. Like, we're going to get nuked. What's that going to be like? Not so good. And the giant bugs. Like, we need that.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to be all jacked up with radiation sickness and stuff. So, really giant bugs or bunnies. Night of the Lepus type stuff.
Did you say Night of the Lepus?
Yeah, Lepus. That's the Night of the Lepus.
I thought that was a werewolf thing.
No. Werewolves are, aren't they loup-garou and what they're called? Lepus is bunnies.
Lupus.
No, Night of the Lupus would be, you ever had lupus? Well, you don't want it.
Really?
I've heard.
Is it a werewolf disease?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
I think you get it from, is that the one you get from not eating enough fruit or something like that?
I think that's scurvy.
Same thing. Same exact thing. Lupus, scurvy, all
it's
one
like an
thing.
anagram, spelled
That's
the same.
right. You don't want a radiated version of that either.
Right.
Because you turn into a giant cantaloupe or tangerine.
Pirates happen to them all the time. That's what happened to Blackbeard.
And then they ate them.
Yeah. Cannibalism.
I don't know.
Captain Cook.
I don't think werewolfism is actually from atomic weapons.
Or medically defined.
Of course, zombies come from them, so why not? That was another thing, right? There's some movies where people sort of got atomified and became zombies.
Is that true? I thought that was a different thing. Usually zombies are more like a biological agent rather than a nuclear agent.
Nuked. Yeah, because you're hungry for brains. You're a zombie.
Yeah.
That's from the nukes. Your brain deteriorated because of all the rapid half-life cells, melts out of your head.
Okay. I'll buy it. Let's talk ant attack, Aaron.
I'd never heard of this one. Had you?
Yeah, I played this.
Heard of it.
I did an Amigos Plays video on this.
Is this amongst your huge collection over there?
This is, yeah, I know. I don't think I have, well, these days, because of the massive amounts of games, maybe I do have it.
You have to go catalog all that stuff.
I do have it cataloged. I just don't have it all memorized.
Because the cover for this is it's pretty sweet. You've seen it.
Yeah, I have. I'm looking at it right now because it's on the screen in front of us.
There you go.
This is a game that it was one of the first Spectrum games that I knew about from Retro Gamer magazine.
Oh yeah,
yeah. When I first subscribed to Retro Gamer in the early 2000s, there was a huge spread on Ant Attack, and they heaped praise on this game like nobody's business.
Oh
and
yeah,
interviewed the programmer and all this stuff. So I knew it was a big deal.
Yeah,
It was a big deal.
So this came out in '83, pretty old, and was published by an outfit called Quicksilver Limited. I like that. And it was made by a dude named Sandy White. Now, I when I was researching this, I didn't know anything about this game at all. I mean, I didn't know it had a rep. I didn't know anything. But I came across the interview with this guy, Sandy White. He seems like just a normal, decent guy. And he sort of went through his computer. I think this may have been out of From Bedrooms to Billions. I think the interview might have been clipped out of that. But he talks about when he made this game. It was the first game he made. And he hooked the gizmo up to the back end of the Spectrum so we could use something else to type this in. He said he just wrote all this. Everything to him was just numbers, code, and he just basically typed all the code, and then there was your game. He just coded it all like it is, on pieces of paper. I think they said it was like 47 different loose pieces of paper, and he just input all this stuff in, dumped it over, and bam, it's a game.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And he's clearly a bright fellow with a lot of vision. And this is another one of those games, I think, where the game was made by a guy who didn't know you couldn't do certain things in games. You know what I'm saying? He didn't know.
It was very early days.
He was like, well, we're just going to go for it. So, anywho, the game runs on the old 48K, and this debuted at a big price of £6.95p. And again, the usual gimmick. Now, in this game, it's a pretty simple game, isn't it, Boat? But it's got a crazy backstory, Boat. Of course, I love the crazy backstories on this stuff.
This is another, we just talked about Rygar. This is another sort of post-apocalyptic ruined civilization.
Allow me to educate.
Okay, I want to hear it.
So the walled city of Antesher, think Escher, and put Ant on the front.
Or like Manchester, but Antchester.
Has rested for 1,000 years. That's a lot of years, Boat. In the midst of the great desert, inhabited by only the deadly ants who have made it their home. The sands have piled up at the walls, but for some reason have never encroached upon the city proper. The city rests, dreaming of past glories, solid and unmoving. The signature of a long dead race. The city washed clean by the sun's rays. The city lost from the world of men for days without number. That's poetic.
I was going to say, we've read a lot of these flavor text things, and this is one of the better written ones for sure.
Get this. It's not. It continues. How did he get all this on the little thing? I don't know how he did it. Then one day, 1 year, 1 hour, he arrived and she arrived. Some say they are descended from a race of wizards. Some say they are descended from a race hidden in a green valley at the North Pole.
North Pole, baby.
Who can really tell these days? How much do we really know about the world as it was or as it is after so long in the cold, dark ages? Only Antesher seems to stand inviolate after all this time, teeming with secrets yet silent. And so I'm not going to continue. This goes on for a long time. Basically, he and she run to and fro, climbing out of the buildings. They laugh and cry out in fear, walking with each other just ahead of the ants and death. So basically, I don't know. From what I can tell, these guys are just screwing around in the city.
That's right.
Basically that's the plot of this thing.
It's like Blue Lagoon, really.
This is actually incredibly well written.
Yeah.
Of all the things we've read, this is by far. It's not the sexiest thing I've read, but it's definitely the most well written. Thing that I've read. So this game starts off by giving you a very unique opportunity to pick if you're a boy or a girl. That couldn't have been done too many times before this, could it? Because I don't. I was stunned by that. And so, effectively, your job is to go into the city, rescue whomever you're not. So if you play the boy, you're going to rescue the girl and vice versa. And then escort them out of the city. That's the mission.
That's right.
It's not that easy, though. Well, the first mission's pretty easy, but then it gets a lot harder. So you've got what you've got here is a free roaming, 3-dimensional, I guess sort of isometric world filled with ants that you have to traverse, and you have to rescue your partner and leave. The controls on this are challenging. Let's go with that, and which I'll get to more in a minute. They're almost like they're sort of like tank controls or something, aren't they? They're real goofy.
Sort of, yeah.
Where you sort of hitting up makes you go forward, and you sort of rotate your guy.
Right.
And then to mix it up a little bit further, since this is a 3D world, you literally can switch views of the world, because sometimes things will be behind walls.
Yep.
Or whatnot, and you can't see them unless you rotate the world. This could also get quite confusing, and I had all kinds of trouble keeping track of where I was or what was going on. A difficult game in terms of that. Of course, you're in this giant city with all these shapes, and it's also full with ants, and the ants look like ants. They come at you, and pretty creepy, really. I mean, you have to get up on higher ground and try to get away from them.
It's a very intense experience.
Yeah, they'll bite you.
Yeah.
Don't think they won't bite you, and they will stun you occasionally, and eventually you will be overcome if you.
You've got hit points, and you can see your hit points tick down.
Yeah, and same with your partner, and they can also get stung and killed. So it sucks. Really, the only thing you can do to stave off these ants is to toss grenades at them.
Right.
And the grenades, you've got to be careful, because you could actually whack yourself with a grenade too, and the grenades will stop the ant or kill them.
Can you use the grenade? I don't think I've ever hit myself with a grenade.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it depends on how close they are to you. This game is leaps and bounds ahead of what I would have thought was around in '83.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I saw this, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be that much, and then you're just like, holy crap. I saw a blown-up view of the city. It's unbelievably elaborate.
It looks like a city, yeah.
Your character can't just scale walls. He has to go up steps and little platforms to go into higher areas. By the way, you can also fall off stuff if you're not careful, which I did that before, too. Your guy has the ability to jump. So basically, jumping and shooting, it's about all you can do and run away. Of course, the game is sort of... it's just 2 colors basically. It's there's no.
Well, it's monochromatic.
Yeah,
it's shades of gray.
The only real colors you're going to see are at the bottom of the screen. There's a square that is called scan, and that if you're near ants, it turns red.
Yeah, your HUD is colored, but the actual game world is monochromatic.
And then, of course, when you complete the level, you get sort of this rainbow-colored congratulatory statement that's colorful. But the rest of it, I mean, as a lot of games on the Spectrum. That doesn't really bother me that much. The animation of the little characters is pretty good, isn't it, Bo?
Yeah. And, I mean, this got a C64 release. Did you look at the C64?
I did not. I only looked at this one.
You'd rather play this one 10 times out of 10. You know, the C64 color palette is sort of vomit-inducing in its own. And this is I would much rather play it in monochrome and let my mind color in the lines.
It's funny how often that happens, because clearly this was originally done for the Spectrum, and then they try to port this stuff. And it's funny how often that doesn't work. And you would think moving to something that had a better palette or would have a better resolution or whatnot would get a better game.
It's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where it almost seems like it loses some resolution when you add color, and that's my viewpoint.
One thing that Speccy lends itself to are games like this, where you have a lot of geometric shapes that are shaded,
right?
You know, and one thing this thing also does is the amount of real estate you're running on. This isn't one of those like skips to a different screen scrolls. This is a straight up smooth scroll, isn't it?
Right. And when you move viewpoints and things, it all happens instantly. I mean, you push the key and the scene shifts. I was surprised. To me, the most. It's the most impressive thing about this game is not necessarily the world that you move about in, but it's the animation of your character itself. Because this could be a game that could become infuriating because you cannot figure out which way your character is pointing. But as you rotate, as you use the keyboard controls to rotate your guy, you can watch him turn. And it's like you see him turn in 3 dimensions. And even now, I'm not quite sure how it's done. Yeah. But it's done very convincingly, so you're always sure which way your character is facing. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily makes this game any easier to control, because I had issues with the keyboard.
Yeah.
But the animation of your guy spinning around really impressed me.
The animations in general, and especially, which is you're a pair of people most of the time, it's neat the way they move. It's almost like a couple running through a city, being chased by ants. I mean, they look like they're running. They'll jump off stuff. They jump together. It's like a movie. The care given to the little figurines in this is real impressive. I have to say that was the most impressive thing. I wanted to love this game, and I can certainly see. Of course, the standard line for this game is some people say it was the first isometric three-dimensional game. Some people say it was the first survival horror game, and that's all up to debate.
Sure.
All I'm going to do is call it like it is, and it is an impressive game.
It's an impressive, unique experience.
Here's my biggest problem with this game, and of course this is pretty much the standard complaint. The controls in this are ridiculously hard for me to get into. Yeah. In fact, I even changed keys around to try to get something more comfortable to play with, and it was difficult, and there was no joystick on this, and so it was tough. Now, I play most of the Spectrum games with the keyboard anyway, but this was just one of those games that I had a heck of a time with. And then you've got, on top of the fact that you've got all your buttons to move, plus a jump, plus a grenade, plus 2 buttons to rotate the play field.
There's a lot of buttons.
It's a lot of
Now, I will say one thing that I liked about this is they give you several options for your grenades. So when it's panic time, you just mash on that middle row of keys and you're going to hit the right button.
Yeah,
so
yeah. But for me, it was a lot. It was a lot to keep track of. I mean, the heads-up display is fine. Everything else is fine. I've got nothing bad to say about it. I know this was ported to like modern ports. Like there's some that worked in Windows, and people are so. But I mean, when you do that, you sort of lose the spirit of the game in a lot of ways, because the technical achievement that the game is lost.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you could improve upon this game in so many different ways, other than just updating it. Although I would have liked to have seen a joystick, a way to use the joystick on the original Spectrum version.
Yeah. I mean, you would still be several buttons short, which is probably why they didn't do it that way. Because you're going to need you have to rotate the landscape.
What I would do is I would have left and right rotate your character, up and down move forward or backward, and then use the keyboard for use your button for grenades, and then use the keyboard for shifting the view, because you do need to shift the view sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah, well, it would. I can see why they didn't do that. Yeah, and I don't know. And I don't know.
Well, again, in '83, there weren't a whole lot of Spectrum joystick owning.
That was something I was wondering. That was something else I was wondering too. How many people actually had adopted the joystick at that point. So this game, boy, was it well received. I guess that goes without saying. I looked up some scores on this.
I want to talk about one more thing too.
Oh yeah, please.
You know what game this really reminded me of a lot? And I don't know if you've played this or not, but there's a game called Action Biker. Are you familiar with this game?
Action Biker. I think I have played that.
Okay, Action Biker.
Yeah, we played that, didn't we? I have played that, yes.
Okay, well, it's a game for the Atari 8-bit, the C64, and you are a motorcyclist roaming around this isometric open world collecting parts and things.
I remember that, yeah.
And this game really reminded me of that a lot. It's like if you took out the ants and put yourself on a motorcycle, and instead of finding the girl, you're collecting parts. That's basically what Action Biker is.
I see. Did you like it more than this?
Yes. Action Biker is a
Did Action Biker come out way later than this?
Right? Probably 1 or 2 years later.
Yeah, so there you go. Anyways, getting back to the scores on this thing. So the World of Spectrum the people over there gave us an 8.48 out of 10. Very high praise. Tilt gave this 6 stars. Crash gave it 85 out of 100. CPG 30 out of 40. And also, this won several awards. It won the CNVG 1983 Golden Joystick Award. It was named the 14th greatest ZX game of all time by Our Sinclair. So it's been very popular. It was highly touted. Mm-hmm. Now, I think this is really. I can see why people think this is a pivotal game. I can see why it's popular. This is one of those games that if classic Aaron had this game and had time to sit around and fiddle with it, I could probably have gotten into it, just because this is a game that allows you, it gives you exactly what you want. You can go anywhere and do anything. And you can, that makes it fun. I like that aspect of it, and the fact that the city is so expansive is neat.
Yeah. Now, you don't see all the city all at the same time. The city is sort of walled off into components, and each stage is a different component. But you should, if you are at all interested in this game, you should look up, just Google Ant Attack City Map or something like that, and you can see it all laid out on one screen. It's very impressive.
I was watching really good people play this, and they were doing crazy crap I would have never have thought to do. Like they would get the ants near the city walls and then jump on the ants and then jump over the wall, which I never could do that.
No.
They were doing almost like hopping on top of ants and doing crazy stuff.
Now watching this game actually has a real end screen too.
Yeah, you get the gold medal.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There's a lot of crazy things you can do that you wouldn't normally would expect to do, and from what the programmer said, part of that's because the way he programmed it the way he did it was like what you saw was what you got. You could do any sort of crazy thing you could come up with, and so I guess there are people that like have a real have a good time going through and just trying to pick out all the crazy things you can do.
Yeah.
So pretty neat.
Emergent gameplay.
Yeah.
That's the jargon.
Did we get any listener reviews on this one, Boatster?
We did. Let me take a second just to pull those up over on the Discord. If you are a Discord member and you'd like to leave us a review, you're welcome to. And if you're not, if you support the show on Patreon, it gives you access to our Discord server. We'd love to have you. Let's see here. Scroll up to the top where it never ever stops. Ant Attack review by Chris Folds. He says, I first got this game on the Soft Aid compilation tape. I guess that was like Farm Aid over there. As part of Band Aid. And they had Soft Aid. They were all about aid in the 80s. It was before we all got greedy. And was the standout title. An isometric sandbox B-movie survival game that has you rescuing your other half from inside an ant-infested maze with only your quick reflexes and smoke grenades to survive. The controls take some getting used to in 2019, but still a classic, 8.5 out of 10. And Chris notes, this was the first game he left a score for after playing it on a real Specky. So he's got his Specky
he's
back
on
up
board
and
now.
again.
Good for you, Folds.
Pixels at Dawn says, I love the look of this game, especially for such an early Specky title, up there with 3D Monster Maze for non-2D worlds. I never knew what I was doing back in the day, but it's pretty fun now, although I find the controls horrific on emulation and poor on anything but the 48K Spectrum even. Fun if you can get your head around it, though. Extra points for naming the city after my favorite artist.
Yep.
Is Anchester the name?
No, Escher, remember?
Oh, Escher.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about Escher, yeah. So yeah, that's going to do it for our Discord reviews for this week.
I like this one. I could have loved it. I was close, but it was just the controls kept me from. When you suck at something repeatedly, it makes it hard.
Right.
It makes it hard to get into it.
Right. Well, before we go, Aaron, let's take a moment to recognize all the people that make this show possible through Patreon. We want to thank our Patreon supporters: Andrew Waite, David Spencer, Cap and Crispy, Laurent Giroux, Gary Heather, Eric Nelson, Harbonut, Graham Vebke, Frodo NL, Tapes from the Crypt, Pixels at Dawn, Chris Folds, Paul Bossman Harrington, and Christopher Hassal. And Aaron, next week on Our Sinclair, we are going to be playing a real classic game.
All right.
Are you ready for it?
I am.
We are going to be playing Combat School.
That's a Brent favorite.
I love Combat School too. Brent's the one that got me into Combat School.
I just know it from having played it a few times. It's an arcade port.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Konami, I think.
Beautiful. Who pulled that one out of their hat?
This is Boss Man, suggested to Clive's Club by Paul Harrington.
Beautiful. Well, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. We also want to thank all the fine folks watching us live on twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming right now. The Duncan Styles, Pixels at Dawn Gaming, Ricky DeRocher, Lob Terminator, Picard 2010, Paul Kitching, L. Curtis B. Delamort 78. Did I say Ricky already? I'll say him one more time.
Yeah,
Ricky
he was real happy with your comments on the C64. He's gonna talk to you at the show.
What?
Yeah, they weren't happy about that.
I love the C64.
I warned you about that, but you won't listen.
Retro Tributee was here as well, and everybody that's lurking around.
The Bark Bit.
Yeah, Jan Holbro. Thank you guys so much for watching us live. We usually record the show live on Fridays, but this week we're recording early because I'm going out of town this coming week. So anyway, Aaron, we'll see everybody next week for Combat School. And until then, rewind tape.
and press play.